Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the content capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing@wsncc.com or WhatsApp 6861662 and start building your future.
Hi, I am Emiliana Beechan and I am a mental health and conflict resolution consultant. Welcome to Mind Matters, the show where we explore the intricate world of mental health and the art of conflict resolution. Join us as we hear from mental health professionals, conflict resolution experts, and everyday people who have transformed their lives through understanding and communication. Mind Matters, WESN Content Capital.
Breast cancer is the most prevalent cancer among women in Trinidad and Tobago, with an incidence rate of 37 per 100,000 population.
Definitely, I can say from when I first started just focus on breast cancer about 3 years ago, is definitely you can see a steep incline and rise.
Yeah.
And I'm generally, I don't have data to quote it, but I think I would like to say that there are more younger patients being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And those are patients under the age of 40. I'm thinking your practice as well, I'm sure that you see and diagnose a lot more patients at a younger age.
Absolutely.
This is 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Takia Thompson and today is Throwback Thursday. Now, we kick off today's show with a blend of home gardening, progress, and community engagement in our Thriving Today segment. In Trinidad and Tobago continues to evolve. Business owner of Madame Moringa and home gardener Michelle Barton Romeo will bring together vendors, live plant displays, and experts, all aimed at promoting home gardening in a Back to Eden Food and Garden Expo on May 28th, 29th, and 30th. This morning, joining me in studio is Michelle to talk more about this. Good morning.
Good morning, Takia, and thank you all so much for having me.
Sure, not a problem. Now, before we even dive into the expo, just tell us a bit about yourself and how did you come up with the name Madame Moringa?
Okay, all right. You see, I'm from Diego Martin, and we have been home gardeners for all our lives. Our parents did it, and we are doing it ourselves. Yeah. You know, I've always thought of the healthier way of eating, trying to eat from the garden, and trying to just do things a little different, try to avoid some of the chemicals and the processed foods and stuff like that. So my middle name is Paula, so I started Auntie Paula's Health Foods, and was doing things like muffins and so on without too much flour, you know, and things like that. And then in 2016, somebody introduced me, two friends of mine actually, introduced me to moringa. And I was like, so how come I never even hear about moringa, you know? And then I asked, one of them gave me some seeds, and being a home gardener, I said, okay, let me plant this. I planted the seeds, 65 trees, you know, came. I'm like, okay, you know what, good, I will sell moringa plants. So I did, I started selling the moringa plants, and in order to show people what you can do if you have a moringa tree in your yard, I made a drink, I made a bread, I made a couple of things, and then everybody wanted the products and didn't want the plants. So I started to make more and more plants. It was one product after the next. And a year later, in 2017, I decided, you know what? Forget this Auntie Paula thing. I am Madame Moringa. And I just changed the logo and registered the business. And here we are today, Madame Moringa, with over 100 products.
Wow. That was a fascinating story. Now, diving into the expo part of it, can you tell us about the expo and what patrons can expect over the 3-day period in May?
All right, so we have a fun-packed experience prepared for our patrons, all right? I am very passionate about home gardening. I really think it's a way out of spending too much at the grocery stores. Yes. Our money is just does not reach where it used to before. And then also it promotes healthier eating, and it promotes more vegetables and less processed foods in your diet. So I'm very passionate about that. During COVID is when I started to share my garden, you know, with the world, making videos. No, we were home, so I'm just encouraging people, you know, plant something. We can't go anywhere. We are home. So if you are home, plant something, do something. And you know what I realized then is that a lot of people just does not even know the basics of home gardening. And not an indictment on them, they just don't know, they didn't grow up in that. One girl said to me, I know nothing about plants, absolutely nothing. I grew up here, there's concrete all around, I have no space, I don't know anything. And to me, that's, I can't compute that because, you know, I live in the bush all the time, right? Yeah. You know, and so we have decided, how can we further have people involved in home gardening? How can we encourage people to do this? Because it's fun activity. There are so much benefits into home gardening. And we have planned an entire garden set up at the venue, in containers, of course. And we are bringing together vendors who have plants, garden stuff, tools, seedlings, you name it, as well as some others as well. We have other vendors who want their food and things like that. And then we have our experts, our exhibitors, who are coming and setting up their tables to teach people, to talk about chemical use, to talk about safety. If your home garden is close to a river, how do you go about doing that? You don't cut the river banks, you know. If you use slash and burn method because you're on a hill, we want you to do that safely, do it properly, and watch how you're burning. In fact, make sure you get your permits and stuff like that. So we are bringing together a holistic approach. And when you leave there, trust me, you will want to plant a garden.
Wow. I mean, we're just talking about it, and I'm already excited to even see how it comes about. Now, you mentioned home gardening. What exactly, for persons looking on, you know, they're just hearing the word and they may have an idea of it, but can you break it down? What exactly is home gardening, and what are some of the challenges that may come with it, but also the rewarding parts of it? Can you just share some on that?
Absolutely. See, sometimes people shy away from even the word garden because they think boots, overalls, tools that I can't lift, and all this sort of thing, right? And that has its place. Right, those are the agricultural experts. They do that and come with the machines and stuff like that, and that's fine. But for the home gardener, we think simple. Use what you have, plant where you are, and don't be worried. If you only have a 10 feet by 3 feet space, the amount of food you can grow in that you won't believe. The amount of food. And then we also want to show people about using things at home, you know, your kitchen scraps to create fertilizer and food for your gardening, using your garlic and onion spray for the insects, and not having to run to the agricultural store to buy a chemical all the time. So for me, home gardening is just bringing it really simple and planting something that you can just pick and use in your kitchen, on your table, in your food.
Wow.
You can live, you can survive.
Definitely. Now, while you were talking, has there been, in your experience at least so far, some of the challenges that you may have encountered, and then how did you surpass it?
For home gardening, that is, right? Yeah, sometimes it's finances, and that's probably one of the biggest things. You know, how do I go about this? Because, okay, you may have the plot at home, but let's say you planted something last year or 2 years in a row, you are planting, your soil is depleted. So your next crop may not be so nice, and you might say, no, this is discouraging, you know, these are not coming well. So you have to replenish. You have to put things in the soil. You may not have chickens, you may have to buy manure, and, you know, and things like that. And then the seeds, the seedlings that you have to plant, it's quite reasonable, but you still have to purchase them, you know, and things like that. So some people may have challenges financially. Some people, their challenge is the time. You work 9 to 5. When you get home, what you doing in the garden? These days, you have to leave home so early. Then you may have children to get ready for school and stuff like that. Only the weekend. What happens on the weekend? Washing, cleaning the house, some sort of activity, something. So for some people, the challenge is the time. But for me, it's like we make time for anything we want to do, make time for this as well. And then don't bite off more than you can chew. If all you can handle is 4 pigtail buckets with something in it, then just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just need to, you know, manage our time well in order to produce something if we are so inclined.
Yeah.
You know? And then again, you know, some people just really can't. So we have our wonderful agriculture experts and the farmers and the big scale farms who would bring the things to the groceries, and then we go buy. So we'd always have it though.
Yes, and I liked how you place it like that. Now, with the expo, is this the first time that you are hosting an event like this? And if it is, do you plan to host more or even bring more awareness to something like this? And why would you do it?
Well, absolutely. It is my first time doing an expo of this large.
Right.
We do smaller things. I had smaller pop-ups before and stuff like that. But this is the first time I'm doing something this big. And yes, I do plan to do it again. Because, you know, I'm planning this expo, we know what we want to do, and ever so often something comes up, you know, you can have this, or you can have that.
Yeah.
And I have to talk to myself, Michelle, then I answer myself, yes, Michelle. You know, behave, stay focused. Let's do it again next year, and we can add other things next year, because it's a lot. It's plenty to talk about, plenty to show people and stuff like that. But people are very excited, as a matter of fact. They are. People are getting excited.
It sounds thrilling, just, you know, having this conversation about it. Now, why was it important for you to make it family friendly and also a free event?
Right, that's another, yes, very important thing. Family friendly, yes, because when it comes to home gardening, I think the whole family should be involved as far as possible.
Yeah.
You see, we need to train our children from now.
Yes.
And not wait until they get bigger to just figure it out. So if the child grows up in an environment where they have the chores, they have to water the plants and feed the animals and so on, it stays with them.
Yes.
And then they decide after if they want to do it themselves or if they want to pay somebody to do it, and that's fine. You know, but at least they know what to do.
Yes.
I've seen my parents grow stuff. My mom was a caterer. She made, you know, pone and pay me and so on. And my father would dig the cassava for the cassava pone. My mom threw pumpkin seeds, and we had pumpkins. We used to have like 10, 15 pumpkins, big pumpkins, below the beds. And we learned from small, just leave the stalks on, and those pumpkins last months. When you're ready for one, you cut it. You know, so we grew up doing that. My father would plant the same, and he would, you know, we eat from the yard a lot of the times, and we have all our fruit trees and stuff like that. So it's really good that the children know, and then they grow up into it. One of 10 siblings.
Wow.
Most of us still do gardening.
Wow, wow. Wow, what a family. I mean, that is really good training that your parents would have instilled in you guys, and the importance of it. I mean, look how you're reaping it now. So also, on the line of the benefits, so some people may still be looking on and saying, okay, well, you know, we have agriculture for that. So what is the difference, in your opinion, you would say, between the agricultural farming and home gardening, and also, again, you know, the benefits that comes from it?
Right. Agricultural farming is, of course, extremely important.
Yeah.
We need to grow our own food on that level.
Right.
Because as much as I love growing things, as much as I have a garden, I could never grow every single thing I need. It's not impossible,
Right.
but I've not been able to achieve that,
Yes.
to grow every single thing that we need at all. And I do have to go to the market from time to time to get the things that are not growing, you know? So for the agricultural sector, it's bigger. You're talking about machines,
Right.
and you're talking and they have to use chemicals. There are some nice safe chemicals now, though, so it's not that bad, because all the time we use it, you know. But they have to, because as a home gardener, I would plant. Let's say I plant 20 pak choy seedlings, right? The butterflies are going to get a few because they come, they lay their eggs on the pak choy, and then the larvae, they eat the pak choy, right? But I could now take off a pak choy leaf that has the butterfly eggs on it and discard that, and I could still have my pak choy, but the farmer can't sell me that. There are holes in it, you know, there's some holes, and you could definitely see insect and pest damage, all right? I know it's good, but if you see that at the market, you won't buy it.
Yes.
Right? So that's the difference, you know, when it comes to that part of it. So the home gardener may be able to avoid using chemicals for the most part, and just use our homemade insecticides or nothing at all, because you don't mind if the insects eat a few of your vegetables, right? But the farmer, no, he has to go that route. Definitely can't do what I do, create my own compost, make my own fertilizers and insecticides and stuff like that. The farmer doesn't have time for that. He will have to just get the urea, the salt, and whatever it is in large scale, and make sure his crop is well so that it is ready for market. But then now, as I say, the batchaks can have some and the butterflies can have some.
Absolutely. Now, when you look back at home gardening back then to now, what is the difference that you've seen with it? And also, do you think that this would be something that's recognized in the expo?
Oh, well, yes. The biggest thing that I see is the less time that we have to devote to our gardens. You know, we spend more time in traffic. We spend so much time on the roads trying to just get to and from work. And we have a lot less time for the gardens. So a lot of home gardeners have smaller gardens. You know, some people who are able to just stay home and do that, that's fine. So for retirees, it's a good thing that retirees can, you know, maybe do more as their garden is concerned. Yeah. And yes, we are going to be bringing that out at the expo. We are going to have home care specialists when they come as well and talk to us about having a garden and taking care of your elderly parent at home, how you marry the two, how you have the elderly parent involved as much as you can and stuff like that. Safety as well, and eating properly when it's time to take your medication and stuff like that. So we are going to really have a holistic approach into bringing all these little elements together.
Wow. Again, it's really exciting, and how passionate that you are on this. Now, do you think events like this one can play a vital role in educating the public more about home gardening, or even the importance of, you know, how food prices are rising, so being able to produce your own foods in that essence?
Absolutely. And we want to bring that out in real time.
Yeah.
So when you come to the Back to Eden Food and Garden Expo, you are actually going to see a garden. A real garden, not pictures, not just talk about a garden, but a real garden. We are in the process now of planting all these crops in containers and getting them ready for the expo. We are well prepared for you guys, you know. We are going to make sure that when you leave, you can tell yourself, yes, I am going to do this. You know, oh yes, you are going to see that. So, and then we're going to have things like compost stations. We're going to have displays to show the soil amendments. We are going to show you as much as we can, as much as we've learned. And then we are going to have the experts who will too come with agricultural amendments, things like little chemicals, so that you can use safely at home, things of batchaks, because batchaks need something. Batchaks are just so miserable. You wake up one morning, your whole crop is gone.
Oh boy, could you imagine?
Yeah,
oh
the
my.
pretty elastic squad needs to come for the batchaks.
Wow. Yeah. No, it really messes with the crops, and they do. It gives you some holes, and you're wondering what's going on there. Now, for someone who's looking on and they maybe still hesitant about even starting their home gardening journey, what would you say to that person?
I would say, don't be afraid. The earth is yours.
Yeah.
You know, we think about the whole concept of back to Eden.
Right.
With our beginning, what did God give to us? It was a garden. You know, so it's yours, it's for you to use. It's therapeutic, it's wonderful, it's very rewarding. So, you know, don't be afraid, but don't try to plant a big plot.
Right.
Just start very small, master that, and then you can move on to something else.
Yeah, definitely. Now, again, the expo is carded to happen on the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th. Now, it's a free event for persons to come on out to. What are the time spans that you are looking at for this event?
Okay, right. So let me just make sure, say it's May. Some people thinking it's April.
Oh, yes.
So it's 28th, 29th, and 30th of May.
Yes.
We're going to go from 10 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. We've invited schools to come out. So, you know, the Thursday and Friday we will have schools and youth groups and so on. But of course, the general public can come any day and any time. The schools are going to be registered, so we know when to expect these young people. And then we have the weekdays, because we are saying, all of you who work in the Port of Spain, step on over. then you don't need to move your cars. You leave your cars parked where they are and walk down to the cruise ship complex, right? And then on the Saturday, it's a holiday as well, and it's a less traffic day. So we are expecting the public to just come out in their numbers. We are going to have free seedling giveaways. We're going to be giving away plants. We're going to make you play a game to win a plant as well, and stuff like that. And free entry, yes. It's home gardening, and we really didn't want anything to prevent people from coming to the event. It's not even a $5 entrance fee. You already have to navigate transportation and cars, and parking your car somewhere might cost you some money, because with the venue can hold cars, yes, but not that much. And we, of course, from now we don't know exactly who will be there. But if you have over cars, you won't have to park your car and pay something. So we didn't want to burden you anymore with having to pay to enter the venue. It's free. It's free for everyone.
Lovely. And again, just so persons didn't miss the venue is where?
The cruise ship complex. That's where, when the logos comes, you have to go into the complex to get into the logos. That's where we are, in that complex, in that compound. That's right next to the Hyatt Regency, Dock Road, Port of Spain. Cruise ship complex.
Lovely.
That's where it's going to be.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for coming and, being a part of the conversation. You've not just give the viewers something to look forward to, but you also give myself something to look forward to.
I'm looking forward to seeing you then.
Especially how passionate you are about not just the home garden experience, but gardening on a whole, starting simple and being able to just lay out so many things. And even with the whole business, you came together with Madam Moringa. It is really inspiring. So I hope that, persons looking on could really seize the opportunity while they have it and make the most of it, like you did.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to leave with the viewers as we close off this segment?
I would just like to say that we have room for everyone. We made sure to use 3 days so that if you missed it, if you missed the advertisement, when we share on social media that we are having this, then you still have another day to attend, and then another day to attend. We want to see you. We want to have a conversation with you. We want to encourage you. We want to show you that, you know what, no, you can do the tomatoes, you can do the edibles, you can plant, you can supplement your grocery bill, because this is a worldwide thing that we are going through right now. And you need to find ways where you would make sure that your family is well fed. So come on down to the Back to Eden Food and Garden Expo, May 28th, 29th, and 30th, Cruise Ship Complex, Port of Spain. Looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And guys, she's looking forward to seeing you there. And I mean, you have the time now, you're hearing about it now. So prepare yourself. You're going to be taking away seeds. You may get plants once you win some prizes. So it's really an educational but also informative session and enjoyable, because, come on, it's Back to Eden. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we do have more insight for you, so don't go far.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Breast cancer is the most prevalent cancer among women in Trinidad and Tobago, with an incidence rate of 37 per 100,000 population.
Definitely, I can say from when I first started, just focus on breast cancer about 3 years ago, is definitely you can see a steep incline and rise.
Yeah.
And I'm generally, I don't have data to quote it, but I think I would like to say that there are more younger patients being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And those are patients under the age of 40. I'm thinking your practice as well, I'm sure that you see and diagnose a lot more patients at a younger age.
Absolutely.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the content capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing@wsncc.com or WhatsApp 6861662 and start building your future.
Welcome back. Now, from the first footsteps of the indigenous people of Trinidad and Tobago to the legacy of resistance that shaped a nation, the story of Trinidad and Tobago is one of resilience, transformation, and cultural brilliance. Forged through European colonization of the Caribbean, the struggles of Atlantic slave trade, and the arrival of Indian indentured labor in Trinidad and Tobago, these islands have given rise to powerful expressions of identity. We take a closer look of our island's history in our Time Shift segment.
Long before Europeans arrived, Trinidad was known as Irie, often translated as Land of the Hummingbird. Tobago was associated with the name Alubera. The islands were home to successive indigenous cultures, the Arawakan-speaking peoples and Caribbean-speaking groups commonly referred to as Island Caribs. In Trinidad, Arawak subgroups like the Napoya and Sepoya played an important role in shaping the island's indigenous culture. Tobago was largely under the influence or control of Island Carib groups. Trinidad and Tobago sits at the crossroads of the Caribbean and South America. Just off the coast of Venezuela, near Grenada and the southern Lesser Antilles, these islands were never isolated dots in the sea. They were bridges. By the late 1400s, Trinidad stood on a cultural frontier. Arawakan-speaking and Caribbean-speaking peoples traded, intermarried, competed, and sometimes raided one another. This was not non-stop war, nor perfect peace. It was a fluid political landscape tied closely to the Venezuelan mainland. They fished, farmed cassava, traveled by canoe, and maintained regional trade networks stretching across the Caribbean Sea. Tobago in particular was strategic. It was a launch point between islands and continent. No European kings, no sugar plantations, just hummingbirds, hammocks, and canoes. On July 31st, 1498, Christopher Columbus arrived during his third voyage and named the island La Trinidad after the Holy Trinity. He claimed it for Spain. The indigenous people did not request this honor. Spain settled slowly. There was no massive gold deposit, no instant treasure. Trinidad remained a neglected frontier for nearly a century. In 1592, Governor Antonio de Barrio founded San Jose de Oruña, Trinidad's first capital. Spain feared rivals, especially England and the Dutch, might use the island as a base. Those fears proved justified. In 1595, Walter Raleigh attacked San Jose, captured Barrio, and burned much of the settlement. While searching for El Dorado, he did not find it. But he did expose how vulnerable Trinidad was. Throughout the 1600s, Spanish colonization in Trinidad centered around Catholic missions rather than plantations. Capuchin missionaries established indigenous mission villages, relocating communities into structured settlements. These missions aimed to convert, control, and stabilize. Many indigenous people resisted quietly by fleeing into forests or migrating to the mainland. Meanwhile, Tobago became one of the most contested islands in the Caribbean. The Spanish settlers in Hispaniola were authorized to conduct slave raids against the island in a royal order issued in 1511. These raids, which continued until at least the 1620s, decimated the island's indigenous population. Although Spain passed the new laws in 1542 to restrict indigenous enslavement, loopholes allowed the enslavement of groups labeled as Caribs. In frontier zones like the Lesser Antilles, slave raids continued for decades because enforcement was weak, and colonial authorities often justified raids as punishment against hostile populations. Spanish colonists conducted surprise coastal raids, often at dawn, using firearms and speed to kill or scatter resisting warriors and capture mostly women, children, and some men for forced labor, overwhelming Kalinago communities through shock, technology, and repeated attacks. In many small-scale slave raids, women and children were often captured because they were easier to control. But in the large transatlantic slave trade, young adult men were heavily targeted for plantation labor. Beginning in 1628, Dutch settlers established Nieuw-Walcheren and built Fort Nieuw-Vlissingen. The settlement was attacked, abandoned, rebuilt, and destroyed again. English attempts in the 1630s and 1640s also failed. Indigenous resistance, disease, and European rivalries made Tobago unstable. From 1637 to 1690, Dutch, Courlanders, French, and English forces all claimed Tobago at various times. Settlements were burned, colonists were killed, treaties were signed and broken. Tobago was less an island and more a rotating argument. It changed hands more than almost any other Caribbean island. Between the 1600s and early 1800s, it was fought over and over and over again. Tobago didn't have a national anthem. It had a rotating playlist. Even the palm trees probably stopped learning the flags. Why bother? It'll change by Tuesday. But in the middle of all those European flags were indigenous resistance and enslaved Africans' fight for freedom. Unlike Dominica or St. Vincent, Tobago did not become the center of one prolonged indigenous war. Instead, repeated invasions slowly weakened its indigenous communities. By the early 1700s, distinct indigenous communities on Tobago had largely disappeared due to warfare, disease, slave raids, and displacement. Enslaved Africans were first imported into Tobago in the mid-1600s, beginning around 1654 when Dutch and Courland Latvian settlers established plantations on the island. The largest numbers of Africans were imported into Tobago between the late 1600s and 1807, especially during the 1700 sugar boom. Enslaved people in Tobago endured long hours of brutal plantation labor, poor living conditions, and harsh punishments such as flogging, shackling, branding, and execution enforced under French and later British slave laws designed to maintain total control. During Tobago's repeated wars, enslaved Africans were treated as war property, sold, relocated to islands like Barbados and Grenada, or forced to rebuild plantations after invasions. Some escaped during the chaos, but most remained enslaved under whichever European power captured the island. Tobago lacked the large natural harbors and rugged terrain of Trinidad, making it easier to seize repeatedly. Tobago was first settled by the Dutch, who later abandoned it. Then Courland settled and abandoned it, followed by the French, then the British, back to the French, and finally the British in 1814. During Tobago's repeated wars, a different type of war was happening in Trinidad. In 1699, indigenous people in the Trinidad mission town of San Francisco de los Arenales, present-day Arena Forest Reserve near San Rafael, decided they were done being civilized. After forced relocation, labor demands, cultural suppression, and beatings for missing church, they revolted, killing priests, but one escaped, desecrating the church and even ambushing the governor on his way to visit. Spanish forces quickly crushed the uprising. They pursued them, overtook them. 84 were captured, 61 were shot, others were hanged or tortured, and the surviving women were distributed among the Spanish households as slaves. The revolt failed, but it made one thing clear: colonial control in Trinidad was enforced, not embraced. For much of the 1600s and early 1700s, Spanish settlers in Trinidad remained few. Indigenous mission communities formed much of the population. African slavery existed, but at a smaller scale than on major sugar islands. Trinidad was economically poor and often neglected. Trinidad remained sparsely populated by Europeans during much of this time. African slavery existed, but not yet on the massive scale seen in Barbados or Jamaica. That would change. Everything shifted with the 1783 cedula of population. Spain offered free land and tax exemptions to Catholic settlers, especially French planters fleeing revolution, along with their enslaved laborers. In just 14 years, Trinidad's population exploded from roughly 1,400 to over 17,000 people. Enslaved Africans soon formed the majority. Sugar expanded rapidly. Trinidad was officially Spanish, but culturally it was becoming more French than Spanish. Trinidad was still Spanish on paper, but Martinique showed up with plantations, accents, and recipes, and suddenly the island felt very French. Guadeloupe followed. After the 1783 Cédula de Población, French Catholic planters flooded the island, bringing enslaved Africans and expanding plantations. By the 1790s, French language and customs dominated the white elite. In Trinidad and Tobago, enslaved people faced flogging, imprisonment, forced labor, sale, and execution for resistance. Executions were usually carried out by hanging, sometimes by shooting during suppression of revolts. They were public, legal under colonial law, and designed as warnings to the wider enslaved community. In 1793, Spain entered the French Revolutionary Wars after the execution of Louis XVI, first fighting against revolutionary France. After defeats, Spain made peace in 1795, then switched sides in 1796, allying with France against Britain. Britain responded swiftly. In 1797, Europe was in chaos. Spain had allied with revolutionary France against Britain, but Spain was financially strained and militarily weakened. Just 2 years earlier, in 1795, Spain had ceded Santo Domingo to France under the Treaty of Basel. Its Caribbean power was shrinking. On February 18, 1797, a powerful British fleet led by Ralph Abercrombie sailed into the Gulf of Paria. Trinidad was poorly fortified, Spanish forces were outnumbered and unsupported. Governor José María Chacón knew reinforcements were unlikely. Rather than fight a battle he could not win, he ordered the Spanish ships in the harbor burned to prevent British capture. There was no major battle. Within days, the island surrendered. In 1802, the Treaty of Amiens formally transferred Trinidad to Britain. Spain was weakened, the island was culturally French, the Navy was British, and just like that, Trinidad changed empires. In the 1800s, Britain's abolition movement gained momentum, leading to the passage of the Slave Trade Act in 1807, which ended Britain's involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. Tobago was permanently secured by Britain in 1814 under the Treaty of Paris. By the 19th century, both islands were firmly part of the British Empire. Freedom had waited far too long, but it finally arrived. In 1834, the mighty tide shifted as the United Kingdom ended slavery in its colonies, culminating in complete emancipation in 1838, a moment that forever changed history. Britain ended slavery in 1834 because abolitionists pressured Parliament, enslaved people kept rebelling, and the empire feared another Haiti. By the 1830s, slavery looked morally indefensible, politically dangerous, and economically outdated, so Britain abolished it before it exploded. Although slavery was legally abolished in 1834, with full emancipation in 1838 after apprenticeship ended, but freedom did not mean economic equality. Plantation owners still needed labor, and the struggle over who would work the land and on what terms was just beginning. Freed Africans refused plantation control and demanded better wages. To keep sugar profitable and maintain colonial stability, Britain turned to India to replace the workforce without restoring slavery. After the Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the rise of the East India Company's power in Bengal, Britain had the administrative and maritime capacity to move labor across its empire. On May 30th, 1845, the first indentured laborers from India arrived in Trinidad. The first ship was the Fath al-Razak. Most were Hindu, with a significant Muslim minority. In 1850s, Chinese indentured laborers also arrived, but in small numbers. While indentured servants were finding their voice and identity, free Africans were forging new traditions that would transform celebrations as we know them today. But to understand the events of 1881 Camboulay riots, we must first look to the past. Carnival traditions trace their roots to ancient Roman celebrations such as Saturnalia, a harvest festival honoring Saturn that symbolized a temporary return to a mythical golden age of freedom and abundance. Masks and masquerades allowed people to hide their identity, relaxing social rules so crowds could celebrate, mock authority, and behave more freely. In other words, ancient Rome invented the idea of a festival where everyone could misbehave as long as it ended on time. French planters brought pre-Lenten masquerade traditions after 1783. These were private, elite balls and street celebrations modeled on European carnival customs. France was officially Catholic for centuries. Carnival happened right before Lent, the 40-day fasting period leading up to Easter. Lent equals fasting, prayer, no meat, no indulgence. So Carnival equals eat, drink, dance, dress up before restrictions begin. The word carnival comes from carnivale, farewell to meat. It begins on Quinquagesima Sunday, the Sunday before Ash Wednesday, and concludes 2 days later on Shrove Tuesday. While enslaved people served at planter masquerade balls, they also created their own parallel celebrations, drumming, stick fighting, chant wells, and street processions that later evolved into Camboulay traditions. They sometimes parodied the masquerade culture, exaggerating European dress, mocking accents, flipping the power dynamic through performance. So while they were not invited into planter balls in costume, they were already laying the cultural foundation of what would later explode into Camboulay and eventually modern Trinidad Carnival. The word Camboulay comes from the French cans brûlée, meaning burnt cane. On Trinidad's sugar plantations, cane fields were sometimes burned before harvest or caught fire accidentally. When this happened, enslaved Africans were awakened by bells, horns, or overseers shouting at night and forced to fight the flames using torches, buckets, and tools. Fighting cane fires involved throwing water or mud on the flames, stamping out burning patches, and moving through wet fields. Often at night, workers also beat the fire with branches or cane leaves, which kicked up ash, smoke, and charred debris. By the time the fire was controlled, many people would have been wet, muddy, and blackened with soot from the smoke and burned cane. After the fires were controlled, people, often covered in mud and soot, sometimes sang, drummed, and marched with their torches. Over time, these late-night processions became symbolic reenactments of the burning cane fields, which is why Camboulay traditionally began around 2 a.m. Enslaved people usually worked from sunrise to sunset, so the hours before dawn were often their only small window of personal time. After these nighttime events, some might gather briefly before the workday began again at sunrise. But this was not true freedom. they remained under plantation control and could be called back to labor or punished at any time. At best, the pre-dawn hours offered a short moment to rest, socialize, or keep cultural traditions alive before the next day's work began. After emancipation, Afro-Trinidadians brought carnival into the streets, transforming it into a public Afro-Creole expression. In Trinidad and Tobago, Canboulay grew from enslaved people's firefighting duties into a pre-carnival celebration of freedom with drumming, chanting, and stick fighting. Stick fighting is a traditional Afro-Caribbean martial art where two people fight with long wooden sticks. In Trinidad and Tobago, it is called kalinda. It comes from West and Central African fighting traditions, including military-style training, and was preserved by enslaved Africans on plantations. In some matches, the fight could end if one person drew blood from the other's head. Fighters wrapped cloth around their heads, but injuries still happen. The French brought carnival masquerades to Trinidad, but the British never had that tradition, which meant they were ruling a festival they didn't quite understand. The French saw carnival and thought, celebrate before Lent. The British saw carnival and thought, why are thousands of people dancing in the streets at 2 in the morning? British colonial officials viewed Canboulay as a threat to public order, a gathering of large black working class crowds, a potential site of rebellion, a challenge to British authority. Remember, this was less than 50 years after emancipation. Colonial authorities were extremely sensitive to any mass black mobilization. In the early hours of Carnival Monday, February 28, 1881, police moved into Port of Spain to shut down the Canboulay bands. They expected the crowd to disperse. Instead, thousands pushed back with sticks, stones, and flaming torches. Fighting spread through the streets, especially around Charlotte Street and Marine Square. Barricades went up as the confrontation intensified. The police were quickly outnumbered and forced to retreat. Apparently, the crowd had very different plans for the morning. Dozens were injured, several seriously, but there was no widely confirmed large death toll during the main clashes of 1881. Despite the crackdown, the celebrations continued. Canboulay bands kept marching through the streets. The colonial government responded with new restrictions. In the years that followed, drumming was banned, stick fighting was restricted, and police were given stronger powers to control carnival, because if you can't stop carnival, the next best thing is to try regulating it. By 1884, Canboulay had been forced largely into the daytime, as colonial authorities had suppressed the traditional nighttime torch processions and drums were banned. In 1884, colonial officials suppressed an Islamic commemoration. Jose is Trinidad's public observance of the Islamic commemoration of Hussein's martyrdom, brought by Indian indentured laborers in the 19th century. Hussein ibn Ali was the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, who was killed in the Battle of Karbala after refusing to submit to a ruler he believed was unjust, becoming a symbol of sacrifice and resistance in Islam. While Muharram in India is solemn and mournful, Trinidad's Jose keeps its roots but evolved into a unique Indo-Caribbean street procession with faster, distinct tassa rhythms shaped by local culture. Jose processions were also restricted in 1884. On October 30th, when marchers defied bans in San Fernando, police opened fire, killing 22 and wounding more than 100, one of the bloodiest confrontations between Indo-Trinidadians and British rule. Most victims were Indian indentured workers, but Afro-Trinidadian spectators and other townspeople were also among the injured as bullets hit the mixed crowd watching the procession. After troops killed protesters during the Jose procession on October 30th, 1884, the colonial government quickly passed the Peace Preservation Ordinance in November 1884, giving authorities sweeping powers to control public gatherings. In other words, the government didn't say you can shoot people. They just made sure the police had a lot more ways to decide when force was necessary. Trinidad and Tobago were officially united in 1889 when Britain merged the two colonies into one administration. Tobago's economy had collapsed, so London decided it was cheaper to govern the smaller island from Port of Spain. In 1903, the colonial government in Trinidad introduced a new water tax to fund improvements to Port of Spain's water system. Many working-class residents already struggled with poverty and saw the tax as unfair because water access was inconsistent in many neighborhoods. People felt they were being charged for a basic necessity. The tax affected poorer residents the most. On March 23, 1903, thousands gathered outside the Red House to protest. The crowd grew angry, stones were thrown, and the government building was set on fire. At that time, police opened fire on the crowd. A total of 16 people were killed on the spot or died of their wounds through the use of authorized firing, and 43 others treated at hospital for injuries received. The 1903 water riots were about more than just water. The tax was the trigger, but the deeper issue was political rights and colonial control. Indentured labor ended in 1917 after growing protests in India, and Britain condemned the system as a new form of slavery. With World War I disrupting transport and international pressure mounting, the British government finally stopped sending Indian workers to Caribbean plantations. These activists argued that although indentured workers technically signed contracts, the conditions, punishments, restricted movement, and plantation control made it similar to slavery in practice. Indian nationalists, including Mahatma Gandhi, condemned indentured labor as a system resembling slavery. The system depended on workers from India. Once India said no more, the whole thing collapsed. It's amazing how powerful the word no becomes when thousands of people say it at the same time. Resistance was not always armed rebellion. Sometimes it was cultural persistence. Colonial authorities banned drums because they feared they could unite people, spread messages, and spark rebellion. What officials called noise, enslaved and freed Africans called culture. When drums were banned, musicians adapted with bamboo tubes, tambour bamboo bands. When bamboo was restricted, innovation continued. Trinidad's modern oil industry began in 1908 when commercial oil was successfully struck, though natural asphalt had been used for centuries before. From that point on, oil gradually replaced sugar as the colony's main economic driver. Trinidad is the first and largest oil producer among Caribbean islands, and the only one whose economy was fundamentally transformed by oil production. Between 1919 and 1920, rising food prices and wage dissatisfaction sparked agitation. In 1937, oil workers in Trinidad lived under harsh conditions, low wages, dangerous work, and no legal unions. Labor leader Tubal Uriah Buzz Butler began organizing workers in the oil fields. When police tried to arrest him during a meeting, workers resisted and violence erupted. The unrest spread across the colony. Oil fields shut down, protests spread through southern Trinidad, and colonial forces opened fire. About 14 people were killed. The riots forced Britain to investigate labor conditions and eventually led to trade union rights and major labor reforms, making the 1937 oil field riots a turning point in Trinidad's modern history. World War II began on September 1, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, triggering Britain and France to declare war 2 days later. During World War II, Trinidad's oil fields were critical to the Allied war effort. The British government feared that labor unrest could disrupt fuel supplies. Because Tubal Uriah Butler had already led major oil field strikes in 1937, colonial authorities detained him under wartime emergency powers and kept him imprisoned for most of the war to prevent further disruption. In Port of Spain, musicians experimented with metal containers. After World War II, discarded oil drums became instruments. Teenagers and very young men in the late 1930s and 1940s, including pioneers Winston Spree Simon and Ellie Mannett, who began experimenting as young as 10 or 14. They demonstrated that tuned metal surfaces could hold multiple notes. Out of bands and unrest, the steel pan was born, making it one of the rare major instruments shaped by youth innovation. The steel pan is not simply an instrument, it is rebellion tuned into harmony. It is now the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago. After more than 150 years of British rule, rising labor movements, expanding voting rights, and the leadership of Eric Williams pushed Trinidad and Tobago towards self-government. Britain tried to unite several Caribbean colonies into one country called the West Indies Federation, but the federation collapsed in 1962 after Jamaica voted to leave. After that, Trinidad and Tobago pursued independence on its own. When the West Indies Federation collapsed, the islands moved forward alone and became an independent nation on August 31st, 1962. Independence did not immediately remove the British monarch. The British monarch remained head of state. In 1970, the Black Power movement sparked massive protests demanding economic control and cultural pride. The crisis shook the government and forced reforms. 6 years later, on August 1st, 1976, Trinidad and Tobago became a republic, replacing the monarch with a president. The first president was Sir Ellis Clark, a lawyer who helped write the nation's constitution and guide its transition from colony to republic. Today, Trinidad and Tobago reflect centuries of collision and blending. African, Indian, European, Middle Eastern, Chinese, and indigenous influences shape its society. From repeated wars and mission villages to sugar estates, from Tambu bamboo to steel pan, from colony to republic, these islands were never quiet. They were contested, negotiated, suppressed, reinvented, and every time something was taken away, something new was created. That is not just history. That is Trinidad and Tobago.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back. Now we shift our attention to another engaging conversation. With growing concerns over personal safety, especially for women navigating daily commutes, ride-hailing company DeliverMet has introduced a new feature aimed at protection and peace of mind. Let's talk about it more in our Thriving Today segment. The service called Only Her is designed specifically for women passengers, connecting them with female drivers in an effort to create a safer travel experience. As crime continues to impact communities, initiatives like this are sparking important conversations about safety, accessibility, and trust in public and private transport. Founder Ida Marie Thomas joins us to discuss more. Good morning.
Good morning. It's Ida Marie Thomas, and the company name is Deliver Me TT.
Thank you so much, Ida.
Not a problem.
Now, what inspired Deliver Me TT to launch Only Her at this time?
Well, quite frankly, part of our strategic and product development growth is reviewing our products and features that we offer to clients. And we have been listening to our clients and the female side of things. Some people have been wanting a service where they can get only a female driver. So at times we will get calls to our call center and their husbands, their boyfriends, themselves would want a female driver. So we took it into consideration and we developed our app where a customer can now pre-book their ride and for a only her driver. And there it is that you'll be aligned now to a female driver and taken to your destination.
Wow. Now, are there any other services that Deliver Me TT actually provides?
Of course. Yeah. Deliver Me TT name is a service that delivers people, packages, and things. All right, and we do it via mobile technology, via an app, or through our call center at 683-7433, which is 683 ride. So a user can take a ride now if they wish via the app or call, or they can go multiple stops. They can pre-book via the app, right? They could pay via credit card or their debit card or in cash to the driver, right? Track their rides, do all sorts of things on the app. We also do priority deliveries. And this is where, if it is that you want a package, bread, flowers, done and delivered now, you can call Deliver Me TT. We will talk to you about it. We will quote you our price, and we can get a driver to you in about 25 minutes or less and get it to your destination on time when it is that you require it. Okay. Wow. Also, we have some clients who want our errand services. So this is where some companies, they don't necessarily want to have on their HR somebody for a month, say a messenger for a month, because their business is that small, but they want to execute dropping off some mail, dropping off some checks to the bank, maybe just something that they have to do. And they would rely on Deliver Me TT. They will call us and they will tell us what it is that they want. And we'll say, okay, we'll get it done. We'll quote you and it's up, and we negotiate and it's done. So these are some of the things that we offer to our users in Trinidad.
Wow. And now, how exactly does Only Her work, and what makes it a bit different in terms of the other regular service?
All right. So like I said, initially, Only Her is a feature of Deliver Me TT. So it's a category of Deliver Me TT where a female user who prefers to have a female driver can pre-book via the app. So when it is that they go on, they're going to see a lovely little calendar on the map screen. They would press that button and it would lead them into the pre-booking sketch window. and they can pre-book their ride. It's just follow all the instructions and they can pre-book their ride, and they click only her for the various categories, because we have sedans, we have SUVs. So in our essential category, we carry these sedans. In the SUV, we have the premium category. If you want a six-seater, we have in the minivan category. So all them says only her essential, only her premium, only her mini-seater. And you can pre-book it from 1 hour to 90 days. All right. So once it's set, we would see it. Our call center would see it, and we work to have the driver assigned. Okay, and the driver will call them. They would follow up. You're using the app. You'll get all the features of the driver's name, their image, their license plate in the app. Or if you're booking through the call center, we would share those private details with you, so you feel comfortable and know that that driver will be coming for you.
Thank you. Thanks for explaining that in detail like that. And in light of recent crimes, do you think that this service can help reduce risks?
That is a critical question. Yeah. Now, we can't eliminate a risk, right? But in a meaningful way, we can reduce it. Okay. Now we are answering a need that a female driver rider wants to be matched with a female driver for their comfort.
Yes.
Right? So it helps reduce the anxiety and the vulnerability. Sorry for my nervousness. Right? So it adds a layer of accountability. Now, via our app, we also have profile verification. So even for our female drivers who are with us, they can upload their image and a photo of themselves, so both sides feel safe in even picking up each other. All right? So it does eliminate some form of risk.
Yeah. Now, what has been the initial reaction from the public since the launch, and have female drivers shown interest in joining the platform? Like you mentioned, there's a picture being uploaded, so comforts on both sides are happening. So what is that, or how has the reaction been so far?
We have had a great response since the product has been launched. We had it in pilot phase about 2 to 3 weeks. Our existing customers have been previewed to it, and they have called and they said thank you for launching such a product. Parents who have to take their young adults, their 21-year-olds to university, they love it. They really do love it, because they can't be there to hold their hand and take them to how the mothers are. I want to take you to school. I want to take you to that university class, and they can't. And they want a female driver picking them up.
Yeah.
They are boyfriends, they are husbands who want to be aligned to a female driver simply because their girlfriend, their wife is, they're pretty. Trinidadians are very pretty, right? And they just want to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But it is not to say that that is taking away from our other tier. There are some females who prefer to be matched to a male driver, and that is fine. That is not discriminating. We're not trying to segregate it that all females go to female drivers. No, it is where simply, if this is what you want, then we are going to provide it for you.
Yeah. And I love that you made sure and put in the part that it is also not just for the females who want females alone, but not disregarding the ones who would, prefer to have a male driver. It's really important that you said that there. Now, do you believe with private sectors like yours, the initiative behind Only Her can fill a gap where public transportation may be lacking of some sort?
We are helping fill a gap to offer women more choice, control, and peace of mind, right? Repeat that question one more time. Do you believe, just repeat it one more time.
Yeah, no problem. The initiative, Only Her, do you believe that it's filling a gap where public transportation safety may be lacking? Yeah.
Public transportation lacks, and I have to be careful with it, because it's a ticklish question. It doesn't offer some of the features that we offer.
Right.
We have the profile verification, as I said, and tracking of rights, right? that's the beauty of where it is that you have technology and a mobile app. So once it is that you get in, then it is from point A to point B, we have a NOC, a call center that's tracking the ride. Also, in the app, you can share your location with your loved one. So I have my daughter in the car, and there it is. They can go into their contacts and share with mommy, daddy, auntie, whoever they want, so they can feel that extra sense of security that public transportation does not offer.
Yeah. And now, what more would you say needs to be done in terms by the government or stakeholders to improve safety for women in Trinidad and Tobago?
Right. Again, another ticklish question. So they are doing what they can, but there's always room for improvement. So you know that how there's street lighting, that you can put more policing on the roads. We would always want that. Right, they have introduced pepper sprays, which it is up to women if it is that they choose to do it. But it is more, I would say, always a collective approach. We have where the corporate responsibility is there, where some companies rely on us to take their females or employees after shift, after work, to safe destinations, so they're not standing on the roadside waiting late at night to be picked up.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really a community and a government effort. It's businesses. It's everybody must really get involved. It's just not one person or one sector to offer safer transportation systems.
I love how you said it's a collaboration that needs to happen to ensure safety for women, and not even just women, men as well too. Now,
yes,
what inspired initially for you to create Deliver Me TT?
Well, the truth is I was 27 years in TSTT, Telecommunications Services of Trinidad and Tobago, and the truth is I got retrenched, right? And I had to feed my family, earn. And here I was brainstorming based on my skill set in information technology, project management, coordination, logistics. I said, wow, what can I come up with? Prayed a bit about it. And I said, Lord, lead the way. And this is what he has brought to me, Deliver Me TT. I asked to be delivered, and here it is. Deliver Me TT is here today. We have been standing 6 years. So it's just also seeing that the risks involved with public transportation, that there are some negatives about it, and I wanted to be a part of that story where we can improve the systems.
Yeah, definitely. And now for young people who going on, they're more on the tech savvy side and then more of the mature women. Would you say that the site itself or the app is easy accessible for both young and mature women to use?
Of course, the 60-year-olds today are quite savvy and use technology compared to before.
Yes.
So it's very user-friendly and it gives you all the touch points to guide you through. But if it is that you're uncomfortable, you don't have space on your phone, you don't like interfacing with apps, because we do have some 70-year-olds, here's what. We have 683-RIDE, 683-7433, where you can communicate with us. Or if you do have the app, we have the chat support in the app where it is that you can communicate with one of our admins and they will get you going.
Yeah, thank you for that. And now, just, in terms of giving advice to young people that may be looking on, like you said, you had a family and you wanted to do something and you asked God and he gave you that Deliver Me. What advice would you give to young people who may be in a similar situation that you would have been in, and they're probably looking for that next step, like how you were able to step out? What would you advise them this morning?
Have God as your center, cast your burdens onto him, pray about it. There's a lot of resources today that I didn't have in my time, where it is they have courses that you can do instead of online. We have a lot of online courses that we could get certifications on. Rely on your support systems, bring forth your own talents, which is available today. I mean, before we didn't have that. We really didn't have the resources. So look within yourself, see what you're good at. I was let go at my company at a time at an age bracket that it would not necessarily have allowed me to go into the corporate world so easily, right? So I had to look within myself and see what I can do, and design something that can bring me an income and help other people as well. Also, Deliver Me TT, we have a lot of part-timers who work with us, right? Once it is that they have a very functioning car, good working car. So you can see supplemental incomes, right? So don't wait until you're in a situation where you're released from your job. If it is that you need to make an extra income, there are part-time jobs that we can put ourselves into to earn an extra earning. So come join Deliver Me TT, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, we are right here to take you.
Thank you so much.
Give me the requirements.
Well, I was not going to say, is there requirements for it? Like an age bracket that you look at in terms of, working part-time?
Yes, there are. So when it comes to the male or female, we have a tendency that we like mature people. So once it is that you're in the bracket of 25 and older or 23 years and older who have a little more driving experience, we will say yes. So likewise, it has to be a good working vehicle, all right, and your police certificate of good character.
Yes.
All right. We wouldn't necessarily take you on if it is that you don't have your police certificate of good character without any incidences, because people would want to believe that obviously that they are safe and they are properly vetted. Right, and a proof of address, that is important to us. And obviously your normal valid, everything must be valid, your insurance, anything, your driver's permit, and all the regulations, license regulations must be valid for you to join with us, whether it's full-time or part-time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ida Marie, for coming on and sharing on this. And again, as we wrap up this segment, just to touch on Only Her again and give the numbers again for the viewers looking on who may not want to go through the whole process of the app, that they still can contact you guys through the digits.
Okay, so our office number is 683-RIDE. So it's 683-7433. The app is available on Google, Android, or iOS, Apple, in the Play Store, and it's called Deliver Me TT Taxi. It's one with a white background and a red logo of a steering wheel and a GPS signal, right? We are available also. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We are also there, so you can keep abreast and up to date of any promotions or discounts that we may be offering or any news that we will be sharing. And obviously we have a website, which is delivermettt.com, where you can find all the information that you need. And there is also a chat communication channel where you can chat with us there or in the app or via phone.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And, like you said, women who feel more safe, in the comfort of having the women drivers, utilize the app Only Her, because, it's giving you the safety and the comfort that you need with all the background checks, as she definitely listed and stated. So it's really, I love the initiative behind it. I love the drive behind it. I love that you're advocating for women who may have this preference. It's really important, like for women like yourself to, come out and do things like this. So I really do commend you and thank you for it.
I thank you too for having me. Thank you very much.
So,
all right.
As we wrap up today's show, we hope that today's conversations and even the video was meaningful. It's important that with the video especially, we know how our culture, traditions, these things came together to shape our identity and even, form the Trinidad and Tobago that we live in, where persons like Ida and our first guest would come on and share and bring the culture together, bring traditions together. So as I always say, stay safe, stay positive, stay informed. Up next, we do have Sean Michael Small at 8 with Talking Points, so stick around for it. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye.
WESN.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.